Hello and welcome back to Podcasting is Praxis. I'm David and my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
And I'm Alistair and my pronouns are he and him as well. And we've got a very slim lineup at the moment.
Yeah. So Rob's now on his holiday, which, you know, prick. And James has took a night off for the sake of their own health, which is like, yeah, fair enough. Everyone should take a break from podcasting for their own health. Unless you're Rob, in which case, fuck you, prick, come back.
I mean, that's the great thing about having this particular episode set up in the way that it is. We can just slate Rob in the first half and there's nothing he can say about it.
I mean, it's deserved after what he did to us last week, so, like, yeah, he's only brought this on himself. Yeah,
I did not appreciate it, because we are sort of podcasting from the past and the future.
Yes.
So we have been. This is subsequent to being carpet bombed by Sinan on the last recording.
Yeah. For fans of Rob putting us through misery, though, we do have a section we recorded a couple of weeks ago in the second half of this episode, so look forward to that. But I thought before we get stuck in there, why don't we just have a little... We haven't really done a kind of news roundup-y thing recently, so I thought we'd just kind of have a wee look, see what's going on, and just have a chat about it. So, first up, you know, the pandemic's over.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, it's so over that in the last couple of weeks, not only Scotland, but also London have apparently hit 1 in 11 people likely to be infected.
I might be interested until it's 9 in 11 people, frankly.
Oh, yeah, that's a proportion I can work with, yeah. So, yeah, that's pandemic's over. Don't look at those numbers. Don't listen to those numbers. Those numbers are obviously estimated to some degree because we have basically stopped fucking testing, which is also cool with those kind of numbers.
I'll tell you what is fun. I saw a tweet earlier today about how British Airways removed their masks on flight policy in the middle of March.
Yes.
Apparently they've cancelled like dozens of flights.
All the airports are in just fucking chaos now because like everyone's dead.
So yeah, I've seen this. So yesterday alone, so that was the 4th of April for those keeping score, 90 flights from Heathrow, British Airways flights were cancelled yesterday. So that's going well. Manchester Airport has been an absolute fucking shit show. Like because of staff absences and the amount of people actually fucking turning up to get on planes, some of which are cancelled, some of which aren't. So yeah, that's all fucking great. Remember we talked a little while back, we talked about the we did that episode about like the army and British culture and all that kind of shit. And I mentioned that the army was doing some work in Scotland with the ambulance service.
Yeah.
So
two great tastes that taste great together.
So I've been told some first-hand shit, which we'll probably go into in another episode because there's a lot in there, and I need to check some stuff with it. But it's turned it into a clusterfuck. The Scottish Government put out a statement today saying that there has been a minor improvement in the number of A&E patients waiting less than 4 hours, which sounds good, but we're still over 1,000 each week waiting more than 12 to get into A&E.
Is this one of those, technically this number has decreased because the situation has gotten a lot worse?
Yes, it very much is of that ilk, yeah.
Tree Thrax the Reaper always gets his.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all really fucking cool. Another cool thing with the NHS that's happened, at least down south, I don't know if it's happened up here yet, but down south, there was a kind of addition to the death in service benefit that was put in place for all like health and social care workers. It was worth about £60,000 of financial support to assist with like, funeral costs and other like, death associated financial burdens that families would experience. That's gone now. 10 health and social care workers did die in the first quarter of the year, in the first 3 months, and they've decided that from 31st of March, I don't need that anymore. So that's also very cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
It's never been a better time to die.
Saves a lot of money as well, dying. So.
Yeah, the NHS also advocating staff to take up smoking.
Well, the other interesting thing here as well is that did you know the symptoms of COVID have changed now? Yeah, Yeah, they've changed now. The NHS said that they've changed. So it used to be that if you were to get a test, like not your rapid LFT one, but the PCR one, you would have to present with a high temperature or a new continuous cough or a loss or change to your sense of smell or taste. Now, that has extended to shortness of breath, feeling tired or exhausted, an aching body, a headache, a sore throat, a blocked or runny nose, loss of appetite, diarrhea, feeling sick or being sick. All of those are COVID symptoms now. They weren't before, but they are now.
I have those all the time. So
Yes,
how would I know?
That's just called depression. Yeah. But the reason that this is interesting is because this changed as soon as it became no longer free to get a test.
Interesting.
Very fucking interesting, yeah. So, I mean, like, people were denied access to testing and that kind of stuff because they didn't actually present with the 3 symptoms originally fucking listed. You can't get a test, you can't get booked in for one because you don't have one of those symptoms. Fuck you. Now that you need to pay for it, and employers will still expect you to present with a fucking test that's positive. Yeah, that's what we've got there. So
it's just fucking infuriating, really. It's just
yeah, no, it's fucking it's wild. Like there's no need for it to have ended up like this, but it has, so that's cool. This isn't going to go away. There aren't going to be any more fucking mitigations. But hey ho. So yeah, like just as much as things are back to normal, they're very much not. There is still a fucking pandemic on. It's going to get weird. It's going to get fucked up. Like for all the shit that everyone clocked on at the start of going, hey, this nudge unit looks a bit fucking suspicious. That's going to ramp up as well, so look forward to that. Yeah. No good news there, sorry. But we get the shit bit out of the way first. On to a little update on the business world from a few little places. So,
are our podcast investments finally paying off?
I'd hope none of these are fucking things we get investments in.
I'm hearing good things about Dogecoin.
Well, actually, that does bring us to the first one, which is Twitter. And it's new shareholder Elon Musk. So Elon Musk now owns a 9.2% stake in Twitter, which is worth somehow $2.3 billion. For
fuck's sake. The Bird app is worth many billions of dollars, and that is just a very pathetic state of affairs.
Yeah, like, I don't think I've ever been successfully advertised to on that app, other than, like, you know, my lone lizard brain. That's about the only thing that's successfully been advertised to me, is embracing that.
David being like having the concept of drinking water out of a ravine, like he's just like, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
I was thinking more just like the base element of fight or flight, but yeah, nothing else has made me drink more water. Twitter's not going to fucking achieve it. Good luck. Better websites have tried.
Elon Musk can own as much Twitter as he wants. He's still not going to be funny.
No. It is going to be interesting to see how this one goes down with, like, so... I need to find the tweet. I did not fucking get the tweet for this. Hang on.
After Elon Musk buys his stake in Twitter, it is now compulsory to have a Reddit account and link the two in order to know what your fucking details on Reddit are, so you can get downvoted on there into oblivion for saying Elon Musk is actually a massive cunt.
Yeah. So the Twitter CEO, Parag Agrawal, I'm excited to share that we're appointing Elon Musk to our board. Through conversations with Elon in recent weeks, it became clear to us that he would bring great value to our board. How? In what way?
Maybe... I feel like he probably would get more value for his money if he bought like some kind of ancient comedy website that is still inexplicably going in the year 2022.
He's going to bring value to Twitter by, like, now that he owns like a 10% stake or whatever, they'll be able to push like fucking NFTs or some shit, and all of his like fanboys will buy the Twitter NFTs.
Oh, this is going to culminate in the largest Dogecoin scam known to man. Yeah.
I was going to say, Jamie, like they've already integrated or attempted to integrate NFTs to some degree. And it is going to be fun when that shit gets ramped up to like 11.
Yeah, I just don't see what the fuck he's going to offer. Like some people have been quick to jump in though with like what he could do. Graham Linehan, for example, has wrote a Dear Elon letter, literally beginning Dear Elon,
titled "My Wife."
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a begging of like, please reinstate the accounts of I'm just going to assume Terf, and myself Terf,
and also my marriage and my career.
Women, lesbians, gay people, people with DSD conditions, trans people, Scottish nationalists, lesbians, and a comedy writer. You have missed off a descriptor, Graham. Some were verified, and many were important stakeholders in the debate around sex and gender. All were silenced for ideological reasons. Thanks in advance, maybe. Good Lord, he will not bring your kids back.
Graham Linehan is Earth's softest bitch, like, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? Everyone just fucking like pissing all over him from a great height, and he's just down there. He's just down there crying and like, "Oh, Elon Musk will save me," and it's like, no, he won't. Do you know what I mean?
It was fun the other day when he did that fucking radio interview. I don't remember where specifically it was, but everyone like tweeting in and texting in was like, "Oh yeah, he's a massive piece of shit and deserves every horrible thing that's happened to him since he started on his completely idiotic crusade."
When he cried, it was like, fucking, you know what I mean?
Fucking get it up you.
Yeah, it was incredible.
100%. Fuck him. So yeah, that's what's happening in the world of Twitter, which is always great. We love to talk about the fucking bird site.
I mean, Glenna's just incredibly jealous of Elon Musk, because imagine how many ready meals for one, like $1 trillion buys.
I've got an article that I pulled from the Times here about Brewdog. So Brewdog has went off at some HR company.
I do love Brewdog's ability to just constantly and continually paint itself in just glory. Oh, yeah. Victory after PR victory,
Yeah. Alan Layton, which is Brewdog's chairman and the former boss of Asda, has accused this company Hand and Heart of amplifying attacks on its management team and has declined to take part in a proposed reconciliation programme. So in a letter to the managing director of Hand and Heart, Layton said he was concerned about a platform that had been set up for Brewdog workers, claiming it was encouraging participants to submit malicious content. The unavoidable impression is that of H&H charging the company to extinguish a fire it is fueling itself. So what's happened basically is this company has basically said, DM us if Brewdog was mean to you, and then people have went, Brewdog was mean to me, and then they have said, this is an attack on us that we did not expect. I
mean, fuck them, quite frankly.
Yeah, fully fuck them, yeah. I mean, this all comes off the back of this. We've talked about this before, which was that fucking, I hate the name of this fucking Punks with Purpose thing. Like, please just pick a fucking different name, guys. Please just divest yourself of the fucking Brewdog branding. But yeah, so that company has basically done exactly that. They've set up a fucking way that people can say, I have a grievance with Brewdog because, and they can submit their evidence through that. With the idea that they do a big report on it, and then Brewdog can then learn from that and then say, we will do X, Y, Z to fix these problems going forward. Rather than do that, they have shat their nappy and just said, we don't like any of this, please stop.
I mean, I can appreciate that sentiment, but then I'm not a fucking CEO or chairman or whatever of a very annoying fucking company.
Yeah, I mean, fuck them. Like, again, just absolutely fuck them. Dog shit company run by dog shit people. But I thought that was quite fun to see how they're getting fucking dragged by their own actions again, which is just, it's always beautiful to see because fuck that company so much.
Yeah.
Another company, which should also go fuck itself, is Starbucks.
Yeah, always and forever.
Always and forever. Starbucks has been going quite heavy in on the union busting shit in the US just now.
Wow.
I specify in the US because I have no data to support that in the UK, That's not to say it's not happening in the UK, just to say I don't have any data to support that it is. But yeah, there's been quite a few stores now. I think they're across 20 odd states at the moment of stores that have actually successfully unionised. So, they're starting to panic a bit. And one of the things that they did was they brought Howard Schultz back as CEO.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, the guy that founded it, who has a history of union busting.
Damn, wonder why they got that guy back. I'm sure it's purely because of his exceptional business acumen and not because of his extremely monomaniacal hatred towards unionisation.
Yeah. So they've been engaging in the usual shite. Like, as soon as someone in a store starts actually fucking acting as some kind of organiser, their hours get cut and then they get suspended, or they force them to work a shift that's not possible for them to work. They decide that their hours are no longer, the flexible hours arrangement is no longer suitable to the business, despite nothing actually changing practically for the business. Just fun shit like that. But one enjoyable thing here is that it's got to the stage now that the NLRB, which is the National Labour Relations Board in the US, they're now changing it so that rather than react to things as we'll wait until we've got all the evidence submitted and then we'll go and take it to a fucking tribunal or whatever it is, a process which can take about 3 years, they're now running with, if someone comes in and says, I have been prevented from setting up a union in my workplace, that now basically takes the company to court. So they'll need to go to federal district court on that one to slog it out pretty much in the first instance. So that's going to slow down things on the union busting front, which is good. Whether or not it actually gets to the point of exposing anything and the legal teams don't end up fucking miring it out to fuck who knows. But either way, that's something good.
I mean, I was going to say, it's quite shocking, really, when you think about how, the country that had, infamously had the Pinkertons, has still the Pinkertons, has... arguably, to a point, some stronger workers' rights protections than the fucking UK does. Although, obviously, that's not universal, like across the board sort of thing. But like the fact that you can just say, "I've been stopped from forming a union," and the government goes, "Okay, that's bad. Let's do something about that." Whereas in the UK, you get fucking sacked because you're on a fucking 0 hours contract, and who gives a shit? Incredible.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a very fucking weird one that the US is somehow fucking better on that. Alistair, what if I told you that Howard Schultz has a great idea on how to get staff back on side?
It has a great idea to pull his failing business out of the toilet.
Sometime before the end of this calendar year, we are going to be in the NFT business. Okay.
That delayed applause fucking makes that.
Yeah, I was going to say, guarded applause.
Oh, yeah. So, Starbucks NFTs, that's going to get the workers back on side. What a forward-looking business that's going to invest in NFTs by the end of calendar year 2022.
NFTs are over, though. The British government's getting involved, so...
Yeah, oh fuck yeah, Jesus Christ. Asking the Royal Mint to mint an NFT, that's not how minting works, mate. That's not how that works.
They're a mint? Surely they can just mint a fucking monkey JPEG.
Do I look like I know how a JPEG works?
I've seen it, I can't remember who it was that posted the tweet, but it was either Rishi Sunak understands what an NFT is and thinks this is a good idea, or Rishi Sunak doesn't understand what an NFT is. Either way, it clearly shows that he should not be in charge of a fucking national treasury. Yeah. Oh, it's such a fucking joke. But then again, Britain.
He's just desperately flailing around to get the kids to like him. You know what I mean? Like that photo of him the other day at the fucking barbecue or whatever it was.
My man has never cooked food with his own hands. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Just the way he was holding all the food on those plates, and it's like, motherfucker, Have you ever been to a barbecue?
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to keep doing these like fucking like down with the common man photo shoots, he really needs to work on making them look less like fucking photo shoots. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he needs to get a music band T-shirt, a baseball cap, a skateboard.
Yeah. Maybe just don't hold like a platter with all of the fucking food from the barbecue at once, because that looks like, you know what I mean? That does not look like a natural thing anyone does.
Yeah, this is what you eat, isn't it?
What he should have done is just paid someone from Asda to like get a photo taken with their barbecue.
Rishi Sunak just abseils down the side of a house to like cake crash some like fucking random person's barbecue to have a photo of.
Last business I want to look at is Amazon, because Amazon just got rinsed in one of the funniest ways possible, in that they failed to bust a union, which we love to fucking see. So the Amazon Labour Union now has a president in Chris Smalls, who was elected after a supervised 2-day count and won by 10 percentage points, which is fucking ace going, especially considering that the organising for this took place in the JFK 8 distribution centre, which is basically like the mega fucking centre that works for NYC. Like the turnover rates, the burnout rates made any sort of organising a fucking nightmare. But they did it, so fucking hell yes, we love to see it. And Amazon are clearly flapping because with they've got like a little chat app that they're going to launch for their employees. Yes. And someone has leaked the list of no words, and it's fucking amazing. So you cannot say the following: I hate union, fire, terminated compensation, pay raise, bullying or harassment. You also can't say I don't care.
Oh man, do you know, it's great that we are allowing billionaires to essentially force people to create what was like tech speak, but like in the 2020s. So like just replacing all the fucking letters with numbers, shortening everything. We've got like be that fucking scene in Ali G where it's like the batteries. What the fuck are you talking about? Right?
I mean, like some of these are honestly, I don't actually know how people are supposed to fucking communicate in any way. You're not allowed to say rude. You're not allowed to say this is concerning. You're also not allowed to say stupid or this is dumb. I assume that you can say dumb, but saying this is dumb is something that's not allowed. Like the funniest thing with this list is just kind of try to imagine like what were people like specifically thinking of as an example that made them go, I can't let them say that. Prison isn't allowed.
I remember reading this, and two that really stood out were master and slave.
Yes, and plantation as well. Plantation is also there. Yeah. Grievance isn't allowed. Petition isn't allowed. Injustice isn't allowed. You're not allowed to say diversity or ethics or fairness or accessibility or vaccine. And then amazingly straight after that it's senior ops. Oh goddamn. Yeah, there's some fucking belters in there. Restrooms aren't allowed. You're not allowed to say robots. So if ever the robots go on fire, then people are fucked. Which surely will never happen, definitely not. But yeah, so that's definitely a list written by people who are not fucking panicking.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great, like, as that list just grows and grows, as they have to keep adding, like, the fucking things people are saying to get around the filter.
See, what people don't realise is, but the pidgin that they speak in The Expanse was actually because of this word filter grown to encompass the entire English language.
Oh, yeah. The Belter Wireless need to fucking unionise.
But yeah, so that's a little business roundup. So there's some stupid shit happening in there, which is good to see, and some not some fucking good shit that's happening. But either way, businesses are getting roundly fucked by workers in some way or another, and all they're being taken for a fucking ride in the case of Twitter, which, like, fine, fuck you. horrible business, horrible company, get fucked. But yeah, so I think what we'll do now is we will return to the past, the glory days of 2 weeks ago, when Rob brought Adam from We Don't Talk About the Weather on to discuss Paul Mason. So enjoy. Hello from the past. This is a section that we've recorded before Rob fucked off on his very long holiday. So Rob is still here and is absolutely unimpervious to our aisle. So hi, we have a cursed article to read. Thanks again, Rob.
Yeah.
And we have a guest on to read it with because we love to share the pain and the misery, not just with the listeners but with other people. So, Adam, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me on.
Not
Can I
for
ask a
long.
question? You said you like to share the pain with our listeners and other people. Are you implying that there's something subhuman about our listeners?
No, we love all our grot listeners.
I said other people. Other people means that they are also people.
Okay.
I didn't say our listeners and people. That would be problematic. But no.
I feel like I'm going to start another podcast called My Podcast and Other Animals.
Well, you listener can judge what's in our hearts. Continue, David.
Okay, well, I have nothing more to continue on at this point. This is all on Rob.
I mean, essentially, the reason we asked Adam to come on is because the author of this piece has been a winner and multiple contender in many of We Don't Talk About the Weather's end of year award shows.
Is it Stella Creasy?
Oh,
No.
yes. And because originally I DM'd you, Adam, with the idea of doing a big maybe multi-hour affair about the life and times of Paul Mason, but that's just too much work.
Yes.
Oh no!
It's so he can never we have an Orwell Prize, real Orwell Prize, where it's the best, the worst left winger or socialist or progressive or whatever you want to call it, anyone on that side. And the odd thing is, everyone else drops out. He stays in, but he's still the worst. Somehow, I don't know how that is.
I mean,
it's because he changes. It's because he changes targets and he switches tack so often.
No, it's because he's chasing the dragon and needs to take increasingly huge hits of spice.
So yeah, I mean, one of the things we always have with Paul Mason is that, like I said, he switches targets and he chases where the biggest vibe is in the room. And currently, obviously, the biggest vibe in the room is in Ukraine. So what he's written this time, he's written a lot of garbage, but what he's written on his own Medium.
Can we have a brief, a very quick discussion of our favourite Paul Mason hits? Mine is currently the pro-Putin left that he loves to go on about.
Oh, we will be talking about the pro-Putin left extensively during this article read.
I'm just staggered by the character growth we've just seen demonstrated. Rob didn't call it the Ukraine.
I used to do that. I used to do that
fix
all
it
the
in
time.
post, don't worry.
Okay, cool.
You ever said the Gambia? That's another one. Don't ask me why. Old Empire, teaching or whatever, but I've heard people call it the Gambia.
We have brought together exactly the two wrong people. We found the only two people in the world who think it's fine to put the in front of a country name, and we've got them on the pod here now to talk about Paul
genuinely
Mason.
Can't remember whether or not with Gambia it is supposed to be the Gambia.
I have no idea. No idea.
Listener, write in.
Yes.
To the past, when Rob is still here.
Yes.
Yeah. Send your
Just receiving bewildering messages about the Gambia in 2 months, and we're like, what the fuck's this about?
What's your favourite country prefix? The, great, or lesser? Phone us now.
Oh dear.
My personal favourite is USS.
Union of, yeah.
Well, speaking of unions of, let's talk a little bit about unions of, and start reading from a piece on his own Medium webpage, which is always when you know it's really good, wherein Paul Mason sets out, well, I'll just read the title: Ukraine, outlines of a Marxist position.
I mean, he's not wrong because he's a self-described Marxist, and it is a Marxist position. So,
is this about social democracy?
It is about many things, but mainly it is time for the left to break with Stalinism for good.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Go for it, Paul.
Do we define our terms at any point?
No. Never any need to. Don't need to.
Cool. All right. I just thought I'd
waste
ask.
of time.
Yeah. I mean, whenever we just discuss one of these asinine fucking articles, whether it be from Paul Mason or like the guy who spends hundreds of pounds an hour to get a guy to clear wasps off his fucking shelf, there's always like a discussion of like the lands in between, and it's like, okay, but what do you mean by that? So, I will not be taking questions at this time. And it's good to see that it's present in Paul Mason's latest garbage fucking article.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. Part of the left disgraced themselves in the run-up to Putin's attack on Ukraine. First, by claiming the crisis was the result of NATO aggression. Second, for a few, by backing Putin's lies about the Donbass and supporting the idea that Ukraine's territorial borders were illegitimate. Third, by repeatedly assuring their followers that Putin would not attack, and then, when he did, claiming that he'd been tricked into it by the West.
I love to learn that Henry Kissinger and a series of other foreign policy ghouls from the American state are all leftists now. Because every single fucking one of them warned that if NATO kept expanding its borders right up to Russia, Russia would be provoked into an open conflict by it. Like, the fuck? This is not some left-wing moonspeak. This was being predicted since the 90s, you prick. Anyway, sorry.
And also,
who's been saying that Russia was tricked into war? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
There was a big pile of of war seed on the road, and they painted it to look like fucking bird seed.
Someone wrapped a bullet in a slice of cheese, and Putin accidentally ate it. And well, one thing led to another.
Yeah, just this big crate called Acme War that was accidentally misdelivered and landed in Russia. And they went, I wonder what this is then, and opened it, and whoops!
Painting war on the side of a big rock and waiting Putin to run into it at full tilt.
The NATO strategy. Got you.
The thing is, you wouldn't want to say that no one's done this, but he's suggesting there's this coherent position that is held by very very organized people, and it's no, it's not.
Yeah, I can from everything I do, I can vouch for left and not organised. It takes a substantial amount of my time and effort to try and organise parts of the fucking left, frankly. And I don't just mean the Northern Independence Party, I just mean beyond that.
I mean, this fucking podcast alone.
Paul Mason's taken that liberal ability to do projection and shit, but he's mastered it to the point where he's basically got a holodeck that he lives in at all times.
Kinda, yeah. And also, it's this whole idea of it is convenient for me to ascribe whatever one particular individual is doing as to be entirely representative of my enemy. This is this bad faith thing that pretty much all political contingencies do to a lesser greater extent.
He does define who this is, by the way, so we'll get into shall we get into it a little bit?
No, mind, I retract all of that.
Lover 420, your time is now.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry.
All right,
Go ahead, Paul. Let's hear it.
Here we go. What we're dealing with here is Stalinism, and not just some residual loyalty to Russia as a former Soviet state, but Stalinism as a way of thinking. It is shared by 60-year-old Soviet nostalgics and 20-year-old leftists who have drunk the Kool-Aid of anti-humanism from Althusser and Foucault.
Paul, I assure you, I am no longer in my 20s.
That is a weird thing, right? He's got that weird age displacement thing because he thinks by saying a 60-year-old, you automatically think of someone who was born in 1940. And if you were 60 this year, you'd be born in 1962. You'd be 30 in 1992. Who is being a Stalinist? And like I say, they exist, but there's 3 of them.
60-year-old still in the shadow of Big Stalin.
I love this idea that this whole projection that anyone on the left really gives Foucault about Foucault. Why? What? On what world? Right, sure, okay, carry on, Rob.
Once you can accept that humanity is a social construct and that history is a process without a subject, you can look at the 1,500 dead civilians in Mariupol and categorize them as neo-Nazis. You can look at Eastern Europeans' move towards NATO membership in the 90s and call it encirclement. You can file away an entire nation of 41 million people under the category puppets of the West.
Okay, I understand what he's doing here now, but it's incredibly stupid.
Figments of his imagination.
Well, it's like, so a good propagandist, they will muddy water and conflate terms in order to kind of project an image, right? And so what he's doing here is he's using very specific language from very specific kind of philosophy, which is, we'll not get into that here. And he's suggesting that, obviously it's horseshit, but then he's conflating specific political positions as falling under the umbrella of that horseshit by rhetorical sleight of hand, right? Which would work, except no one has a fucking clue what he's talking about. Like, no one knows this shit, really. So, it sounds like he's writing it purely for himself.
Like, I mean, it is on Medium.
He's mentioned those two lines, right? And the history is a process without the subject, and humanity is a social construct, right?
Yes.
They're specific lines from Althusser, who tries to not going into it because I don't fucking understand it really, but basically it's that when you say something like man makes his own history, sorry for the gender bias there, but that's how it's written. Man makes his own history, but not in an environment of his own choosing or whatever.
Yes.
What you're doing is your language is suggesting individual preference. And what Althusser says is that actually history is driven by class struggle and the masses, not by individual people. To boil it down really, really small.
Yeah, but this is why I wanted to drift past it, because it's pretty fucking impenetrable. But anyway, carry on.
Because Paul Mason takes it as this means that what you're being anti-individualist. You're being when he says anti-humanist, he means you're avoiding the preferences of individuals. Which is but also what are you talking about? For what it's worth, he talks about humanism and he thinks humanism is just individuals doing whatever they want. And Stalinism had that kind of fakey humanism to it as well, actual historical Stalinism.
Oh, don't bring that into this. That's got nothing to do with this.
It's the idea that everything Stalinism was doing was for humans, was for humanity, for cherishing the human. While in reality, not actually cherishing humans that much at all. And that's the same thing that Paul does. He only talks in massive human waves of history because that's the only thing that gets him excited.
Well, it's either that or inviting his fave porn stars to Athens. I mean, at some levels, he's very, very human indeed. All right. Thankfully, many on the left are in a process of reappraisal, partly due to some excellent interventions from Ukrainian and Polish left and the Eastern European anarchist movement. The new situation... I mean, I don't know any of these interventions, so I can't speak to them. So,
sorry, I just wanted to say it's classic Paul Mason because it's I have a Ukrainian socialist girlfriend. She goes to another school.
It's the anarchist one that raised my eyebrows right the fuck up.
Well, just include all of it. Why not? It's everything that isn't Stalinism, by which he means communism, by which he means left socialism. So fucking throw it all in there. Why not?
Yeah, just what on earth?
If he met a Ukrainian or Polish socialist that didn't agree with his position that they should join NATO, would he listen to them? Because supposedly he's translating this whole cloth. This is what the left wants in Poland and Ukraine.
He has been in Ukraine for a while now, doing weird meetings and stuff with people who, I don't know, may or may not be credible. I can't speak to. But all you're left with, as you say, Adam, is Paul as this sort of translatory medium where he says, I spoke to these guys, they represent the people, we cannot say that they don't because we don't know, therefore Paul must be right, which I think is genuinely part of his construction and why he goes to these places to do these things.
I haven't been keeping up with the jet-setting movements of Paul Mason. Did he return to Ukraine after fleeing immediately before the war began, leaving Oz Chatterjee all alone, or...
So they
I just remember some post about a Turkish McDonald's on the way home.
He just left a bulletproof vest on his bed with a note saying, "I'm sorry, I can't."
It's really cruel to stick Oz with the cost of the double hotel room, though.
The man hardly even needs a single.
Plus the minibar. Oh, my God.
At least something in there's appropriately sized.
Thank you, David.
The new situation does not fit in with knee-jerk anti-Americanism, anti-NATOism, and default anti-militarism that have been prevalent on the left since the end of the Cold War. Some of the best left groups and activists, however, still cling to neither Washington nor Moscow, arguing that the main enemy is at home, which would mean, literally, that in Ukraine, the main enemy of the working class is Zelensky.
You're taking a state and reducing it to a single personage, as he does with Russia earlier on. He kind of goes from NATO and Russia to it's Putin. He's bad man.
Oh, listen, I'm sorry, you're doing him dirty here. He is a poet. And he's using the device of Sinadoki to whole for the part of the whole. Like, do not meddle in his craft that you cannot comprehend. Let the bard speak.
Zelensky does helm the Ukrainian state. Does the state work under the priority of the bourgeoisie against the interests of the proletariat? Do they enforce the terms by which the working class sell their labour? I mean, to their detriment, by the way. Yeah, then yes, it kind of is. I mean, look, they're not. It's a difficult situation to say, "Hey, rise up and overthrow Zelensky right now." But you know.
Also, speaking again, I mean, purely for myself in this case, but a clinging to a position of neither Washington nor Moscow, even in this situation, would appeals to me as well, because both of those seem pretty fucking terrifying and hell-bent on not having, the best interests of the peoples and the working classes in general in their mind when they are doing what they are doing, which is either invading a country or arming its worst fascist, militias. But hey, maybe that's just me.
Do you know, I was having a conversation with Com Radio the other night, Rob, right? And someone said, we've been getting people, coming to our podcast for light relief after they've been listening to Rob on yours. Gloom-pilled rather than doom-pilled, I think was the expression that got used. So,
well, I'm glad to be such a positive force in everybody's life. Right. So, having provided a thorough and intellectually coherent framework, here Paul begins to spell out an alternative under 4 subheadings. So we'll just go. I'll briefly list the 4 of them. 1, Ukraine is fighting a legitimate war of self-defense. 2, there is an inter-imperialist aspect to this war. 3, the world has entered systemic conflict. And 4, decision time. Before we get to the conclusion. All right. So, Ukraine is fighting a legitimate war of self-defense against a criminal war of aggression. That means unions, left parties, and progressive civil society movements all over the world should support Ukraine. Support their government sending arms to Ukraine, support debt relief and aid.
Are we also meant to support Ukraine when it removes all opposition parties and when it cracks down on worker rights and all things like that? Are we just meant to accept Ukraine whole cloth, fascism and all? Are we meant to say this is all fine because it's in aid of a defence against the fucking
because they're the good guys?
Yeah, Alistair, if you don't love them at their worst.
Well, I mean, Alistair, it does not mean uncritically supporting the Zelensky government or its privatization strategy or its alliances with its alliances with Ukrainian oligarchs or its anti-democratic laws. It means turning the resistance into a movement for social justice in the new Ukraine.
What? Where is the space for this? What is he expecting you to do? Are you expected to...
I would simply wish a resistance movement, grassroots, in Ukraine into existence. It's that simple.
What is it? Who is he talking to? Who's this for?
Well, let me answer. The left-wing group, I'm going to probably butcher the pronunciation, so sorry for that. The left-wing group Socialny Ruch argues only a socialist and democratic Ukraine can defeat the Russian militarized dictatorship. Actually, that's probably an overstatement. It is entirely possible that a capitalist and democratic Ukraine can mobilize its people in a resistance war to paralyze Putin's armies, but the idea of transformative social resistance is out there.
Right, are we arming Socialny Ruch then?
No,
our governments are not. And I mean, when I say we, he uses we as in the UK government and we as in Stalinists and we as in the left. Completely
and we as in NATO, which is another huge part of his... I mean, it was the piece I almost chose for this, which is where he argues that like NATO is actually a socialist construct because the people in charge, because it's run by democratic governments who are elected by people.
Socialism is when you have a group of people in the same room.
Socialism is when you have a society.
Yeah.
When you've met anyone ever.
We live in NATO, nods wisely.
I am very intelligent. We live in a NATO.
I can't believe you're saying the NATO now, Adam. That's just incredible.
Oh yeah, the NATO. Yeah. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. The NATO.
Inside Ukraine, it means in the occupied areas, organizing passive resistance, strikes, sabotage of occupation forces, and, if possible, armed resistance. So not passive resistance. Then.
Haven't strikes in that been banned? Am I misremembering that?
I believe they have. Yeah. They've marched out labour unions.
In the unoccupied areas, it means demanding the right of political organization within the territorial army, brackets the various anarchist and left platoons, and the freedom for trade unions to organize humanitarian relief, solidarity, etc.
Sorry, I need to fucking pump the brakes
platoon.
right here.
Yeah.
Anarchist platoons. What the fuck are you talking about? Do you have a passing conversant? Like, have you ever encountered an anarchist ever, Paul? Like, really, seriously, anarchist platoon. Do you understand the concept of a contradiction in terms? God damn, he is a dumb guy's idea of what
a dumb guy.
I was going to say not a smart guy, but of someone who's middlebrow, right? He's just so stupid, and
you can imagine someone say, "I don't like Corbynism," but I like that Paul Mason.
This is how you know that he's a true Marxist. He's applied dialectical materialism to the idea of what happens when you have Stalinists and anarchists working together. You get anarchist platoons. That's just it. That's it. That's your synthesis right there. Done.
Hang on. The Azov Battalion exist. Do you think they're going to fucking put up with the existence of any kind of left-wing divisions of the army?
Yes, because there aren't any, because that's illegal.
Yeah, because those have all been banned, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not part of... Azov Battalion, I don't think, is part of the army, but does come under certain organisational bits with bits of the army, which is a very worrying situation.
Yeah.
So I think the words that have been missing from pretty much all the discourse on this topic in the mainstream media, and we're totally going there, is paramilitary force, the Azov Battalion. They just seem to be refusing to refer to them as it, but... Anyway.
Because, like, the first thing is...
for the blue and yellow shirts.
like, again, you read this, and it's like, I was well prepared to go, this is pie in the side stuff. But it's like, you should. It means organising passive resistance strikes. It means demanding the right of political organisation within the army and freedom for trade unions. And I'm like, absolutely. True. But who are you talking to? Are you talking to the Ukrainian state?
Yeah,
are you trying to rearrange the Ukrainian state and the state and how it treats its left-wing movements?
I mean, I think it's even worse. Like, if you look at the practice of it, like his readership and his audience and the way he writes in English, it's designed for a UK audience. Like, and that puts a weird sort of onus on us as like various stripes of leftists. Like, what are we supposed to do with this shit? You know,
look, I mean, you could point out, hey, look, the consequences of this, of arming civilians and things like that, is a further heightening of tensions. And if martial law is being declared in occupied areas, it means you can get people shot dead. That said, if there is a real revolutionary moment, and then that's the thing that you would support. But if it's not for us, presumably the only people would be advice to the Ukrainian left. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they're quite busy.
Oh, don't worry. Let me keep going. Outside Ukraine, it means the left, again, undefined, supporting massive sanctions on Russia and Belarus designed to paralyze their state's ability to make war and to deter Putin from continuing the occupation.
Is that what he's actually supporting? Why does the left need to support that? There are already sanctions on Russia and Belarus. What do they need the left for?
Yeah.
It's already a geopolitical aim of America and the EU. So
it's apparently that we need to cheerlead it. Like, I think what he's mainly disappointed with is that we've just not been, waving our little blue and yellow flags around when this is going on.
This is just a liberal scold article. That's all this is.
Who fucking cares? That's poise. That's not action. I was promised Paul Mason was a man of action, not poise.
Paul's point is that the Ukraine's right hand is strong, and so now they need to strengthen their left hand to meet
are we going to get like 3 or 4 years down the line and then figure out that Zelensky is actually Hitler, and then David's going to be furious?
Yeah, if Zelensky had been responsible for gunning down the Romanovs, David would be forced to give critical support, and I think that might be a bridge too far.
It would be.
All right. 2, there is an inter-imperialist aspect to this war.
How are we only on 2, for fuck's sake? It's been there for days, man.
You got to train up on some 8-hour episodes.
It's need to do a little montage, yeah.
For you, Jamie, this is the longest recording of your life. For Adam, it's still Tuesday. He's never stopped.
It was a Tuesday.
But it is secondary to the overall systemic conflict it is part of. From 1989 to 2008, we had a single imperialist power, brackets the USA, overseeing a global order attuned to financial extraction. Russia was plundered. China was happy to play a subordinate role, generating super profits from its factories while developing its economy. After 2008, this changed. After the Georgia War, Dmitry Medvedev declared that a multipolar world in which Russia would act as a great power, demanding influence and control over large portions of the former Soviet Union. After 2013, Xi Jinping turned China into a one-man dictatorship with a state-directed economy, a rapidly expanding military, and a neo-colonialist Belt and Road initiative to secure raw materials and trade routes.
Why 2008? Why is it? What are you talking about? Xi Jinping turned China into a dictatorship.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
and introduced a state-directed economy, which I don't think the Chinese had until then.
I mean, I'm no expert, but as far as I'm aware, it's just basically the state supports your company as like a backer of last resort, and you do what they want. Otherwise, they kidnap you, like they did that billionaire.
Yeah.
That billionaire who was kidnapped for like a year and then came back and is like, I love this government. It's great.
Radical support to the CCP.
Exactly. I mean, the sad thing is we essentially
CCP,
live in this...
big fan of the Old Boy film, you know?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, the sad thing is we live in the same state, but without the cool billionaire captures.
I mean, I would, if we could have the trains, I mean, come on. Yeah, maybe.
Hey, now, are you
have the
forgetting
millions of
HS2?
empty houses?
Yeah, we'll take some of them. So, at some point in the 2010s, there emerged a tri-imperialism, with each elite relying on a specific form of rent extraction. The West
emerged.
Just came out of a hat.
Just rolls out of the oceans one day when no one was looking.
And a weird mist descended over the land.
But it's like 2008. Everyone was too busy watching like Breaking Bad or some shit, and then when they turned the TV off, suddenly there was like fucking 3 great empires.
Yeah,
doing some anime
extracting rent as opposed to productively doing economies like they were before 2008. Yes.
And in 2008, we discovered the rentier economy. Well done, everybody.
You think 2008 was the year Paul Mason figured out how to remember things?
To be fair, he flames out like a phoenix and turns to ashes every 8 years, so that's why I forgot.
The West maintained the old neoliberal economic model where the source of elite wealth is financial extractions, brackets, backed by central bank money creation. Russia doubled down on energy rents, creating a tight oligarchic and security elite. China's elite extracts wealth through super exploitation of labor, that's the only ones who do that, by the way, and to an extent monopolized its position over raw materials, again backed up by super soft central banking and increasingly state-directed economy. If these
okay. So it's really interesting that he has to make each three of them different. Like he wants to add some like Command and Conquer style flavor to his real-time strategy factions.
Like literally fucking Command. He's got all this from Command and Conquer Generals, hasn't he?
Well, the West gets +1 banking, but China does have super exploitation of labor, so it's better in the end game.
China produces hackers with their own laptop who just like create money out of thin air.
Russia has a strong start, but unless it monopolizes Tiberium really early on, it's...
I'm sorry, Adam, you're mixing up your franchises, and that just won't stand on this podcast.
I mean, God damn it. Wait, no, Tiberium was...
Yeah, not in Command and Conquer Generals, though, you buffoon.
I didn't say Command and Conquer. I didn't say Command and Conquer Generals. I said Command and Conquer because I am too old to have ever played Command and Conquer Generals. I played Red Alert 2, motherfucker.
I said Command and Conquer Generals, so checkmate.
Damn. Let's just cut through this issue. It all comes down to this, right? NATO gets light tanks and medium tanks. The Soviets, well... Russia, I mean, they get the heavy tanks with the 2 barrels on them, and the super weapon is a mammoth tank which can launch rockets as well at troops, right? And then China just gets a wave of like little men who run across and throw grenades and shit. So, and that's how Paul Mason understands this, okay? But the little men are exploited labor.
But then Yuri manages to hypnotize the tank, so that it just changed the whole thing again.
Anyway. Just wait until we get the psychic Japanese schoolgirl in. And
wait until we get to the paragraph about Tesla coils. Do you know what I mean?
Let's not bring Elon into this, all right?
If these were the only stakes, then the old Leninist principle of taking no sides in inter-imperialist conflict might hold some validity, but the crucial determining factor in this conflict is systemic.
Oh, shut the fuck up, Paul.
Oh, shit, I didn't know it was systemic, unlike all those other conflicts.
No, those just appeared spontaneously.
We should have really been paying attention from, I don't know, 1945 to 1990, when it wasn't a systemic conflict.
He's such a fucking fanny, like, do you know what I mean? He's got to come up with these, like, 2,000 fucking words of just, like, random fucking horse shit to basically, like, get to the point that I assume he's trying to make, which is that, like, the left would be more popular if they shagged the flag more often. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's his entire fucking point here. And yet he's got to dress it up in like stuff about systemic fucking economies and rent extraction and all this bollocks.
He's got to dress it up. He's got to make the point that this conflict is about systemic issues. Unlike World War II, where famously Churchill and Hitler just didn't get along. Totally different, divergent worldviews. So that's what brought those two to conflict.
We established that was World War I. We watched a film about that.
Yeah.
Oh no, fuck off! We're not doing this again.
Right.
That is not becoming a touchstone of this podcast.
This is literally just what he wants is for like left wing people to fucking like. He thinks the left can gain popularity by just going like, yeah, well, fuck the Russians, man. Why are you selling Russian cakes in the shop? Well, I'm going to burn it down and all this sort of stuff. And like, fuck, you know what I mean? And just doing the sort of the Starmer thing of like being more Baz.
The thing is, he never mentions popularity at this at any point. He never says, "Oh, you'll get some benefits." It just you'll be on the right side of history. Yeah, and that's it.
Because if he came out and just said that, then people would accuse him of like doing politics or whatever. You know what I mean? So he can't ever just say that. But also he can't just like get to the point because then he wouldn't be paid for fucking writing like articles, would he? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I find it hard to take the idea at face value that the left would be more on the right side of history by just like anything other than pretty much just axiomatically taking the oppositional stance to like the US foreign policy since 1945, right?
Well, I mean, like, look, the left called it really bad when we said the Iraq War was a terrible idea. We called it really bad when we said that Libya was a terrible idea. We called it really bad when we said that Afghanistan was a terrible idea and that the war on terror would lead to an incredible erosion of civil rights and people being locked up in prisons and never seeing the light of day. None of that came to pass. So we should really listen to Paul Mason when he says these things.
Yeah, I mean, like the fucking NATO is like 3 for like 15 of conflicts in like recent history, and it's like just Paul Mason, stop, please put your baby to bed.
Well, I mean, ultimately, right, as he has commented and as Rob has outlined, it's not really like the Western governments that hold the power in this equation. It's the Western shitposters on Twitter, I guess. What was it he said? Like, it is 60-year-old Stalinists and 20-year-old,
leftist shitposters,
Yeah, they're the people who have to get in line, so he's targeting the right audience.
I think that's correct, because, there's no one who's going to, no Stalinists, especially if you've ever met any or read any of their stuff, that is going to say, oh no, I've read this, now I think I'm wrong. I'm gonna drop this whole thing. No, it's to talk to the mostly progressive younger people in the UK and say, don't even think of becoming the thing that I term as a Stalinist, because that's bad.
Right. Well, if you want to enter the real brain palace, let me read you a little bit onward. 3. The world has entered a systemic conflict between 2 allied militarized capitalist dictatorships and the liberal democratic West. Both Putin and Xi have smashed internal opposition, smashed the independent labor movement, overridden the rule of law, and turned the full force of surveillance capitalism onto their population. Unlike
that sounds...
a liberal democratic West that did
all.
not do any of those things.
I'm so confused about what the neoliberal turn in the West was.
I'm not worried about the idea that we're currently at war with China. When did this come in?
Oh, they're
always at war with China.
Look, what's the important distinguishing factor here? Is it just democracy? Is that
I
it?
think so.
Our democracy, that's what he's going to lean on. Whew.
Yeah,
because
Also,
if he's saying that, the distinguishing factor in the liberal democratic West is that populations get to choose their leaders, the key plank of Paul's argument here, matching the arguments made by, the establishment and the ruling class in general, is that democratic decision-making should not be allowed over foreign policy. We can't choose not to go to war with Russia. We can't choose. We are heavily dissuaded from having a popular mandate for being in NATO. That's one of the main purviews of government, is that you will never have a democratic say in foreign policy. So where is the benefit here?
Actually, Adam, I think you'll find that, quite literally speaking, NATO does have a parliament.
Ah, does it? What is it made up? Is it like the EU, where it's made up of foreign secretaries and stuff?
I think it's like indirect democracy. I think the ruling parties just select people who go there or some shit. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's like
this
the
is
Council
too
of Europe.
obscure even for me to follow up on, and that's really
It's like the Hunger Games. People have to volunteer or some shit. I don't know. I haven't seen the Hunger Games, but
You haven't seen the Parliament of NATO either, so who's to say?
So I'm more clued into it than Paul fucking Mason is. At any rate, do you know what I mean?
There is nothing intrinsic to Western capitalism that says always and forever that it will remain liberal democratic. However,
what does that even fucking mean?
He said, I think he means Western capitalism could go authoritarian.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah. Imagine.
Damn, I sure would hate to see that.
However, right now, that is what it is, period. In addition, apart from ultra-right-wing factions, brackets Trump, Zemmour, Orban, Western political and...
Just, two who are actual heads of government and one man who was the most powerful man in the world for 4 years. Just factions. Just small, insignificant shades of opinion, including powerful people in their countries.
Western political and economic elites express an active preference for and attachment to the rule of law, science, democratic progress, and universal human rights.
I mean, do
they? A preference is not advocacy.
No.
And why science in there? Who gives a shit about science? What the fuck? They love science, unlike notorious petrochemical state Russia, where you don't need science at all.
Exactly. Just you wait until the I fucking love science Facebook group turns against Putin, then by gum, we'll see.
Try to hate science. That's why they're so terrible at copying iPhones.
This one weird science to defeat China. Xi Jinping hates it. A vivid example of the practical implications, I don't know of what, but here we go. A vivid example of the practical implications...
An example of something.
But it's vivid, it's so vivid.
And it's practical. Was provided by the Donbass Miners Union, whose leaders I met in Kiev, or however you want to pronounce it. Have fun with it. It's your podcast. You can listen to it. Play with it. See how it feels. When the separatists seized the Donbass, they asset stripped the mines, shut most of them down, banned the unions, kidnapped and tortured its members. As a result, many fled to the Ukrainian side of the border. Little wonder then that on first day of the war, its members were ringing the HQ, I don't know, to say, we've run away once before, this time we'll fight.
What does that tell you about the West then? If the West, asset stripped the mines, nationalised industries, shut most of them down and banned independent unions or conglomerated them and restricted their use through laws.
Things that never happened in Russia in the 90s, by the way. Just that never happened.
The kidnapped and tortured bit, yeah, sure. But, there were active police agents infiltrating the NUM during the strikes. So, what are you saying?
Well, apparently that because they're unions and they support the liberal West as represented by Zelensky, who is what we have, therefore... because those guys signed up for the military, we should support them because we're all socialists together. I think that's how it goes.
Pose. You're not striking the right pose. I've got some old issues of Vogue. Look.
Oh no, Paul
doesn't work on a podcast, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Smize,
Paul
Adam,
Mason.
smize.
Paul Mason absolutely does not look at Vogue. He's into much more explicit stuff. We know this. He's frequently made comments about it in Greece.
Greece the country, or he was in Greece at the time.
That's
covered in grease, so greasy.
Gently petting a chrysanthemum.
Oh, David. I will read that. I will dig out the book and I'll read it right here on this podcast.
You read that to yourself.
No, I most certainly do not. How dare you?
Decision time. For the left, then, there is a big decision to make. We can sit on our hands, quoting Lenin, as we so often want to do.
Hang on. Who? What named person, Paul, has to make a decision for the left?
The anarchist platoons who quote Lenin have to make a decision.
How, Paul? How? Right? What is the structure by which the left, this monolithic entity, gets to make a decision that in any way, shape or form matters?
When you get consulted, the next time I get consulted by the Foreign Office, I'll tell you. I'll tell you about my decision.
Is this entire
King Adam?
Is this entire article just a subtweet of fucking Momentum? Because that's the fucking vibe that I'm getting at this point.
That really does feel like it.
I mean, that's been his vibe for, I don't know, the last 3 years or something, maybe a bit more.
Yeah,
Certainly since
fucking
Corbyn
Momentum,
fell.
who full-throatedly backed Angela Rayner at the last leadership election. Yeah, great. Okay, I'm sure they're really against all this shit you're spouting off about.
We can sit on our hands, quoting Lenin, or we can accept the systemic nature of the conflict, where the Protoss and the Zerg and the Terrans are in permanent conflict, but two of them are allied because they are dictatorships or something or other.
And they require more Vespine gas because Paul's fucking snorting all of it.
Or we can accept the systemic nature of the conflict and take a side in it, using our expertise and connections to turn the underground opposition networks in Belarus and Russia into outright revolts, and indeed among the underground working class movement in China.
That's so fucking condescending. It's so fucking condescending. I saw that Westplaining thing going on around.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand it, but this is
it's
so condescending. It's like we can use our Western expertise and connections to turn them into revolts. They couldn't do it on their own. Fucking hell!
Of course not. I mean, underground movements are always best, and they always turn out for the best when we help them with the support of our democratically elected intelligence agencies.
I wonder if Lenin had anything to say about systemic issues.
He's fucking. Do you know what it reminded me of? So I did read this beforehand, and it reminds me of he's Prester Johning it. You know the Prester John myth. It was a medieval myth, right? Mm-hmm. That over the other side of Muslim lands there was this rich, powerful Christian kingdom, and that if Christianity Christendom could break through the Muslim lands and reach it, they'd be able to conquer reconquer the Holy Land together.
Yeah, because Prester John would help and come and support because they would have all these mythical Grail Knights, essentially. That sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point at one point, I think they met Genghis Khan and thought he was Prester John. Like they used like tales from Marco Polo and said, Genghis Khan, he's clearly a Christian monarch from the other side of Muslim lands. But like that's the idea that like there's this like the left movements in Eastern Europe and in China they're the pure ones, right? Not like our kind of moribund, decadent Western leftists who won't even go to war with NATO. You know, and if we can link up with them, we can give them our expertise, and they can lend us their like vitality or their purity or something. Yes. It's so fucking condescending.
Well, it's also on purely practical terms, what would it look like if the left, whoever the fuck those people are, would indeed manage to bring expertise and connections all the way from London grad down to Kiev, and then we would start an underground railroad and ship arms and armaments to China?
Well, see, this is the thing.
What?
Well, no, this is the thing. It's like, you mentioned the whole West-splaining thing. That is basically a bit of an op, actually, right? There is real West-splaining that goes on. It's the Liberals who do it. The left don't generally West-splain exactly, right? And the idea, basically it means to shut down criticism of this conflict from a leftist perspective is saying, you're West-splaining. And it's like pure op, absolute 100% op, you won't change my mind on this. The idea that Paul's conjuring up, that actually there are these, little small bean resistance movements, but they just lack, the support, the material support. Well, except he doesn't say material support. And this is the core of it. It's like, what would that support look like? Do you want to arm the commies, Mason? Is that what you're saying?
I guarantee there is one group in the West that is very keen to lend their expertise and connections to underground left-wing movements, and that's the fucking CIA.
I mean,
I fucking guarantee that the CIA is not supporting a left-wing coup that will nationalize Ukraine's industries and empower the Ukrainian proletariat.
Yeah, exactly.
It's shocking, I know, but
this is the image that Paul is trying to kind of conjure. This idea that it is possible to do some kind of intervention that isn't material intervention to support these groups who really just need what? What do they need if not material intervention? What do they need if not material support?
Thoughts and prayers.
Vibes.
Yeah, right? And that is West-splaining at its best, which is to say it's a liberal thing.
This, of course, is what Western liberalism never contemplates, because the idea of workers with Molotovs and AK-47s controlling a country never really appeals to them.
Yeah, they hate it because it's not their fucking politics. It's in direct conflict with their political and material interests.
I mean,
they don't want it, Paul. What?
Yeah. I mean, since the Second World War, every time a group of workers with Molotovs and AK-47s did end up controlling a country, what did the liberal West do, Paul? What did they always end up doing to their,
open arms?
Sent people armed with M16s and stealth bombers to stop them.
Yeah. To take a side in this systemic conflict does not mean advocating war between NATO and Russia. It does mean, as most of the European left and all of social democracy did in the European Parliament, vote for the resolution that committed to sanctions and military support for the Ukraine.
Okay, so why? So why do we need to take a side then?
Adam,
if most of the European left are doing it, and all of the Social Democratic group in the European Parliament are doing it, and all the representatives are doing it, affecting the only material change that the left are supposed to make, which is just sanctions, not war. It's just sanctions. Then who cares? Who cares? Who are you writing this to? Because they've already done it.
The vibes are impure.
Yeah, Lenin Lover 69 is not tweeting approvingly enough of NATO. So something must be done.
It's also like, for years, they have been getting across this idea that economic warfare waged on a country is not actually economic warfare, it's sanctions. And sanctions are like this minor thing, right? And so by their own rhetoric, sanctions are therefore not severe enough to warrant this escalated situation. Only war can be. And it's kind of like they've built this kind of golem of their own creation that is now rampaging, which is the press who are unhappy with anything short of World War fucking 3.
If only there was some, research into how sanctions made populations feel domestically about their own leaders. If only there was a country we could look at.
Well, you can't ask people how they feel,
for 20 years. If only there was numerous countries for 20 years under sanctions who we could ask how it makes them feel about their government, whether it increases support or decreases.
People aren't rational. People don't give you clear answers. People don't know what they're doing. How are they meant to know what they feel, Adam, when they can't even stage a viable uprising against China or Russia?
stuck in their underground tunnels. I guarantee Paul Mason thinks that the underground workers' movement in these countries literally lives underground.
Given Putin has threatened the West with a preemptive nuclear strike in case of interference, the left can be an important voice for realism, brackets, though not of the Mearsheim flavour, while the neocon right stokes calls for direct military confrontation with Russia.
I hope Paul's not putting himself out as a voice for realism here, because there's been about 1,000 words so far that completely fucking blow that case apart.
Yeah. There's an important voice for realism. So just doing what we're doing already and everyone's already happy with. Not happy with, but already doing.
But
you know what I mean?
Here I think we come to the crux of Paul's problem. What you cannot do is hide from the issues by clinging to the average day, as Auden put it in 1939. I've seen a lot of left figures, for example, parts of the DSA in America, adopt this as a default. No, here we go.
Fuck with the DSA.
Yeah,
David,
and the DSA filled with literal who's that, like.
Here we go, David. Refusing to tweet, engage, or comment on Ukraine except in the most general terms.
It all comes. I told you, it all comes down to the fucking tweets.
Yeah,
it's
Of
posting.
course it does.
It's tweeting.
Hussein Kisvani was right.
He's gonna drop a battalion of posters into the Donbass.
That's why he was hanging out with Oz Chatterjee. Now it all makes sense.
Oz Chatterjee is just the advanced guard of the Twitter battalion. And, he's by far the most, belligerent and well-armed of all the Twitter cadres. So he'll make a beachhead for the rest to follow. Absolutely, 100%.
Paul understands the military economies of scale, and to support one blue tick, you actually need 1,000 unverified users on their site.
And that one blue tick cannot rest easy at night without the swift arm of the civil magistrate to police for tweets.
If the poster before you falls, pick up his account and keep moving forward.
Careful, there's bands moving in behind us.
Oh my god.
All right.
Sorry, I've just got like a bomber flying overhead, and all you just hear screaming from it is, "Do you want to review this before posting?" as it soars across the battlefield.
All right, now, who's ready for some praxis? Because this is the last bit. Practical steps.
Sure. All right, we're here. Let's do this.
All right, first bit I'm just going to skip. It's like, all right, practically we can support the Ukrainian left, unions and human rights groups. We can raise money, buy equipment and medical supplies, and organize a left counteroffensive to Putin's information war. See? Posting.
Posting.
Especially in Eastern Europe and the global south. A lot of this is actually underway and being led by the social democratic and anarchist left. So thank you, James, for your struggles in the posting wars.
What can I say? One day at a fucking time. Anything for you, Paul.
What Paul Mason is saying is that we should arm James.
Yes.
We do have many
I'm a
similarities.
pacifist. Is the fucking like. I don't think people quite understand how anarchists interface with state conflicts. But never mind. Never fucking mind.
Well, you're like Frodo carrying the ring. Only you can be trusted.
Why doesn't the eagle simply fly James into the Ukraine?
Like Frodo carrying the ring, I can't wait to fuck off out of this world, frankly. Anyway, carry on.
Until James has delivered the tweet directly to the Kremlin.
Right, hang on. Oh, sorry, we're doing this. Who's my Samwise then? Who's the person who's like carrying me up the hill? Is it David?
Dipshit reply guy.
Dipshit reply guy.
For those of us who live in NATO and NATO-aligned countries, there's also a huge opportunity to redesign NATO.
I live in a big NATO with my wife.
To redesign.
Alistair, you just perfectly captured his energy. Yeah, I can't. I'm now picturing Paul Mason with blue hair.
Yeah, it's the race car bed, but with the NATO colours.
There is a huge opportunity to redesign NATO as a defensive-only alliance with clear limits to out-of-area operations and to democratize the professional, right-wing dominated security and military machines of the West. So, just do that.
You are all welcome in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
I love the implicit admission, NATO isn't just a purely defensive organisation at present. Doesn't that contradict a lot of the horse shit he's been saying? Never mind.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That it's like, oh no, NATO would never. It's a defensive alliance. And it's like, that's what it's supposed to be, Paul. Fucking moron.
I mean, not a lot of us know it yet, but the next NATO parliamentary session will actually be the start of the Sixth International.
It's just simple. Why don't you just democratize the West military machine?
Yeah.
Why haven't you done that already?
Yeah, there's one trick.
Why haven't you just gone into NATO? Why haven't you just gone into NATO and said, "I'd like to democratize this, please"? One democracy, please.
I'm seeing one democracy, please, underneath a picture, a fairly well, but at the same time badly drawn picture of a duck, and that is how I feel about this issue.
For those in the EU, there is another opportunity. Oh, cool. At Versailles, the EU leaders pledged to make the continent self-sufficient in food, energy, and military technology by 2027. Oh, okay. This is the long-awaited. Well, by 2027, David, you have to give these things time.
Oh, I'm sure they'll fix it.
This is the long-awaited resolution of the strategic autonomy debate.
Oh, I know. I've been waiting for it. On the edge of his seat. Paul's discursive pattern is summed up entirely by, oh, you mean these Chaos Emeralds? Obama chuckled. Oh, you mean the strategic autonomy debate? Yes.
Yeah. If Europe desires strategic autonomy, it will need massive debt-funded and state-led investment programs with distributional impact of rearmament and decarbonization shifted onto the rich.
Why don't you just get the rich to pay?
Yeah, why don't you get the rich to pay for the AK-47s and Armalites of the poor people, as they love doing?
Why don't we just get the rich to pay? Obama chuckled.
Who is Paul actually writing to? Dead serious for a second. Who is he actually writing to? Is he constructing?
I've got a theory.
He's trying to prove that he's like known as a leftist, but he can bully the left into shape. He's doing this sort of ineffectual thing, isn't he? Where he's just.
But we already have an Owen Jones.
Yeah, but he's
not. We have Owen Jones at home.
Yeah,
he's not writing to anybody. He's writing to the discourse itself.
I'm genuinely.
That's what he's doing.
It's the same thing as Owen Jones, though. It's the same thing as Owen Jones, though. You know what I mean? He pinned his fucking flag to the mast, and then Corbynism went down, and he doesn't know how to do anything else for a living, so he has to find a way to continue to be a publishable writer, and this is him proving that he can recognize that the left needs to learn lessons and needs to behave better. You know what I mean?
So basically, he's went, all right, yeah, I'll get on board this good thing. Oh, whoops, that good thing didn't work out. Well, I better prove to them that it's not that I'm disloyal, I'm just mercenary. And while they're in charge, I'll happily back them to the hilt so they can trust me as long as they're paying me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I can sort of see this, but...
Who's paying him? Who's paying him at the moment?
I don't know.
Genuine
it's a
question.
very interesting question.
He's freelance, right? He's not got a staff position in any way. So who's paying? I mean, this was on Medium, so it's free. So
much disappointment, though.
I assume this is just do you know what I mean? This is just him trying to prove that he can that someone should hire him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, the place I see him most these days, where his work is published, I presume he's paid for it, is the New Statesman, which makes like a lot of sense because that's this shit.
Yeah,
is this article you're reading? Is this literally spec work for manufacturing consent?
Possibly. I mean, but if you're talking about who he's writing against, like, I don't want to put like feathers up our ass or anything, but I think who he's genuinely trying to talk to, I think is like us or like listen of us.
Yeah,
I think
the remains the kind of unattached sort of people who are left over from Corbynism.
Yeah.
And he's cautioning them against a certain thing that they'll be called. Essentially, his way of disciplining you is saying, if you do this, you will be called a Stalinist by me, but by others as well.
Well, in that case, I'm going to take the Jamie route of doubling down or doing what he says, the absolute opposite of what he says. So, good work there, Paul. I'm twice as much of a Stalinist as I was before. I hope you're happy.
What we can't go on with and should cease tolerating is the dissolve NATO rhetoric coming out of the campists. I don't even know what those are. Stalinists.
Like campists are like choosing a particular camping Cold War politics.
Okay. Rhetoric coming out of the campist, Stalinist, and outright pro-CPC groups on the left. Again,
me?
Yeah, you.
Just me.
Yeah. And also this podcast, which has frequently called for President Xi Jinping to come save us. It is time to draw an absolute line of demarcation with them. How, for example, can Die Linke ever go to the German electorate again with a loud minority of pro-Putin candidates?
Oh, you mean the pro-Putin candidates in Die Linke? Obama chuckled. Drop that in there, because there's no way that you're ever going to find out. There's no way you're ever going to know exactly how many loudly pro-Putin candidates Die Linke put up.
No, you wouldn't.
But more importantly, you're responsible for putting them there.
That's definitely true.
Apparently.
I mean, look,
Frankly,
I worked in
good.
Brussels for a really long time. My fingers are in all the pies, It's just that's
That's
just the way it works.
That's just because you did the catering stuff, though, wasn't it, Rob?
We should recognize that the left, like the rest of Western society, is a battlefield in Putin's hybrid war against democracy, and she's giving his outright backers the space to operate.
All right, I've ceased. Now what?
No, I'm sorry. I think you'll find that Alistair and Jamie have redoubled their efforts. Damn
it! They've created even more space for Putin's outright backers to operate.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm fighting out here all on my own.
Yeah, I've only got a small garden, but I put a TARDIS in it for them to work out of. So
No, I tell you what, right? You're going to take this wall, you're going to knock that in, and that is going to create a great open space for the outright backers of Putin to operate in. Really great. It's going to be amazing. You'll be able to put the couch right against that wall.
I don't understand this, because Adam is king of the left, so clearly we should all be falling in line, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Even the anarchists should be falling in line.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right, Sergeant James.
Damn, that one got a visceral reaction from me, Rob. Thank you.
At least you weren't officer class.
I mean, look.
that's where David's brain goes right away.
Look, once we're done with this recording, I'm going to go to my partner and say, look, we're not taking a Ukrainian refugee. We are instead taking a pro-Putinist, neo-Stalinist party member in.
You don't have to. He's already there. They're already there.
Oh, shit. You're right.
Remember, because you gave them the space. You gave them the space to operate. So
yeah, no check under the floorboards.
No wonder my food prices have been going up. I've been buying food for 12 people without me noticing it. By all means, let there be pro-Putin, neo-Stalinist parties that can operate freely and openly, but they should not find space in either social democracy or the radical left. So what?
Who? Who? Name names. There's literally a Stalinist party in this country. I can't fucking remember which one of the small groups it is. There is one. Name them. They publish a fucking new... Oh, shit. CPGB ML or CPGB Maoist Lenin. I don't know. One of them. There is one that I'm 100% sure is a pro-Putinist, neo-Stalinist party. So name them, you utter moron.
He doesn't know who they are. Like, I can almost guarantee you that he's completely unaware of them. And this is absolutely for, fucking
three bearded guys.
Twitter user it is who's pissed them off.
And it's three bearded guys in Yorkshire having like a pint of bitter and like, I don't know, delivering newsletters. What are they supposed to do?
Now listen here. That is a terrible slur on the north. They clearly come from further south. Anyways, do you think he's going to be a bit flummoxed when they turn up on his doorstep, having taken umbrage at him writing directly about them?
Well, they wouldn't know because the most they're going to do is do a reading group about it. Like, that's going to be it. They're going to subject themselves to the same hell that we're subjecting ourselves to right now, and they're going to say, "What a fanny," and that'll be it.
Do you think they listen to this podcast? Actually, that'd be very efficient.
I don't know. Stalinists, do write in and tell us if you would like more Stalinist content.
Exactly.
All those Stalinist reprisal attacks. where they come and attack you and you know who they are and they show themselves to you.
I'm just picturing a tank turning up on David's like doorstep and his eyes lighting up for the first time in years.
Yeah,
that would kind of rule, actually. Yeah, I'd join them immediately.
Look, neo-Stalinist Patreon money spends just as good as neoliberal Patreon money, so I don't know what the problem is.
We have both.
We are actually the true centrists.
Exactly. We have been brought by Putin's ethno-nationalist attack on Ukraine to the final point of a divergence within the Western left that began over Hungary 1956.
Is this him winding
close.
up?
Nowhere
is this him
fucking
winding
close.
this article up? Because I'm
nowhere
getting sick
fucking
of this.
close.
Yeah,
Nowhere. Are you fucking
paragraph.
kidding me? It is literally the defining moment of the 20th century left after the Second World War. You are nowhere near close to the final point of a divergence. It's gone. It's done. It's finished. What are you talking about?
Well, look, I mean, clearly, the Western left split was about whether or not you supported the Russian invasion of Hungary in 1956, and those issues have largely remained unresolved and very important in every year since 1956. Why I can't remember an evening when my parents sat around the dinner table and didn't discuss again whether or not they thought that invasion was justified.
Everybody knows what the meaning of the word tanky is when they use it, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, well, that's you're not allowed on Twitter unless you could prove you've eaten an entire dictionary. That's why Matthew Goodwin is such a good poster. There is, said E.P. Thompson, whoever the fuck that is, said E.P. Thompson regarding that event, no single Marxist tradition but two. The first is a tradition of theology. The second is a tradition of active reason. Right now, conceptually, these two traditions are on different sides in the shooting war. What is left to discuss?
This Dick Dawkins goes to Moscow. Fuck off.
Everything. What are you talking about? They're in a shooting war? The two sides of the left are currently engaged in a bitter civil war over what Ukraine means. I feel like Ukraine has been one of the more kind of unifying things. It's like, it shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be supplying weapons to an active war zone, and we should prioritise the safety of civilians. Seems like we're on the side of the working class. Seems like a pretty clear-cut side to be on, Paul.
That's right. The problem here is that Paul Mason's definition of the left includes liberals like him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's too... No, I wouldn't say too bloodthirsty to be a liberal. He's different in a way. I can't put my finger on it. It's why he gets in our Orwell Prize award category every year. Because he's not a liberal. He's just himself.
Yeah.
And he can never escape that.
Yeah.
I can't define it. I can't define why he's not a liberal, but he's too...
And also,
he's a quantum superposition of a man.
Yeah.
And also near guaranteed, much like your namesake of the Orwell Prize, if he isn't already, Paul Mason one day will definitely shop our names and everybody else to MI5.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. You'd think he was an agent, but I don't think any agency would hire him.
No.
Paul
No,
Mason's
he-
too
shit for
CIA
British
and
intelligence.
MI5. Yeah.
He would turn up in like the next Athens, wherever the contradictions are heightened to a point that it actually leads to popular uprising, and started posting at like a different porn star saying, "I also work for MI5, so my hotel room is pretty sweet."
No, I think he'd turn up in Athens, right? In wherever the next one is, like you say, Rob. I think he'd turn up and he'd get talking to some fellow leftists, and I think they would steal his camera and kick him down a flight of stairs when he discovered exactly what kind of anarchist he is.
I think
just
on that
we're in
hopeful
this
note-
natural. Well, in that natural little break point, I'm just going to drop a little present into the Discord for you all that I've been working on while we've been doing this.
Well, that's the episode art. So
That's the episode art right there. I think, speaking of natural breaks at this point, I think we'll wrap it up here, and leave you, the listener, to back to the rest of my co-hosts, wounded and winded as they are.
Yes. So we'll sign off just now, shall we? Since you're here, Rob, and we'll sign off from the past as some sort of like act of ultra efficiency. So we will be back as normal for the most part. We do have a holiday coming up, but not yet, so don't worry too much about it. There will still be some content going out during that. Otherwise, streaming will continue as normal at twitch.tv/PraxisCast. And all that's left to do is thank our guest, Adam. Adam, what
who
would you
can
like
also
to
plug his podcast and
Wonderful.
other things before we go.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, as usual. We don't talk about the weather podcast. You can find us on Twitter at WDTATW_podcast.
The best chosen Twitter handle of all time.
Oh my god, I regret it every day.
Okie doke. We'll see you later then, folks. Cheerio.
So yeah.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
everyone.